So in the current year, I know that a lot of people are struggling with finding a job. They also might want to get involved with some types of entrepreneurial endeavors, and they just don't know how to start. They don't really have any advantages. They feel like they're kind of left out, don't know what they can do to help maximize their efforts. And what I would highly recommend you do is you learn Chinese. Any language learning in general would really be beneficial, except learning Chinese in particular, I think would help to boost your credibility, open a lot of opportunities for you. Now, I actually have experience with this. I have learned Japanese, I've learned Chinese. My Chinese is better than my Japanese, but I started both of them way back in high school. And at that time, my key consideration for studying these two languages is that at that time, the US was the biggest economy. I'm a native English speaker in terms of GDP. Number two was China at that time, or maybe it was still Japan. And then 1, 2, and 3 were basically China, Japan, and the United States. And obviously the United States I didn't need to study, but I knew China was on the rise. I knew China would have a lot of opportunities for me in the future, and I decided to start learning Chinese. Now, in the current age of AI and with all the tech, a lot of people think there isn't much use in learning a language, but with me, both of my jobs out of college, I studied finance. Both of my jobs out of college, I leveraged my Chinese speaking ability. So both of these jobs, in my first job in my office, I was the only person who did not have a Chinese ethnic background in my whole department, the finance department. Because there's just a lot of things that we would do with our headquarters based abroad that required someone who speaks Chinese. A lot of the systems, a lot of the programs all use Chinese, and without me knowing it, there would have had to be other coworkers help me to translate every single thing. So, or if you think, oh, tech is going to help me so much, you have to then copy and paste everything or find some tool to help. It just doesn't work out well. If you try to use an AI tool or something, it might not make the wording sound appropriate for the context you're using the words. So a lot of the time where you think tech can actually replace it, it's not as good of a solution, it's not as good of a fix as you think. So I would say it definitely has staying power. If you do decide to learn the language Chinese, it will have staying power into the future. I think it's a little more AI protected, a little more than just if you are a run-of-the-mill person who studies finance, studies business, it helps you in that regard. And for a lot of people who are trying to do their e-commerce businesses, all of this, I personally haven't really delved into that at all, trying to start an e-commerce store. But I constantly see people online saying stuff about, how do I find suppliers in China? Because as we know, if you're watching this video, you probably know, China is the main factory for the world. There is some nearshoring to, Mexico to do some manufacturing, or friendshoring, I think it's called, to do manufacturing in like Vietnam or some of these other countries. But overall, all in all, I think China is here to stay in terms of manufacturing. And that's just because they have a lot of advantages in this regard, and I think that has some staying power. So being able to speak the language, and then if you're trying to do online e-commerce, is going to have a lot of benefits, because you have credibility the second you step in the door, you show them you speak their language, then you can immediately start making these connections. It's something called 关系 in Chinese. It means like relationships, sort of, but you can start to have 关系 between different suppliers, different people over there, and you can really establish yourself. Because I think a lot of people from Western countries, the US, Europe, even other parts of the world, Latin America, Africa, if they learn the language, then they can immediately start to make these relationships. Whereas if they don't speak the language, they're going to be going over there, have a translator, everything gets filtered through them. It's just a lot more slow. It's not as efficient. You have to translate every single sentence for the person who doesn't understand the language. It's just not as smooth. You can't directly ask the questions. You need the translator who they probably sent over there. The translator who translates to English for you is a representative of the manufacturer over there. So they're not necessarily going to be a straight shooter with you. They're going to try to say things to make them look better, try to get your sales. You can't really cut through the mess of cut through the mess of how they interpret things and how they're trying to maybe finagle you and get you to sign a contract with them. So that would be a big thing that would help you out to expand your footprint. And then you can make friends. You know, you can go out for drinks with them or something to talk about business with the people over there. You don't need to have your translator in your pocket pulled out all the time. And yeah, a lot of them speak English, but would they rather speak English in China with a foreigner, or would they rather have the foreigner speak Chinese with them? Because if you're at a table with 5 people who are Chinese, you're at a table with 5 of them, and you're the only person that doesn't speak Chinese, and they all speak okay English, well, they might just try to be, one of 2 things will happen. They're going to try to be friendly and all speak English just to make up for the fact that you don't speak Chinese, but then they don't enjoy it as much because they can't make jokes in their own language. They can't communicate as effectively. They have to think very hard what they're saying. That's how they have to do things instead. But if you are able to speak their language at that point, then you can effectively enter into it, you can speak it with them, and then things will go a lot smoother. So that would be my advice, is to learn the language, to be able to communicate with them, to really get your foot in the door. And once you're able to do that, you can make a lot more better relationships. You can have a better communication. You can get more contracts signed, more deals, whatever it is. So in those 2 regards, whether you're going down the normal corporate path and just trying to find a more stable position, no matter what, if you're able to have that ability, you can get a better stable position, especially if you have a different thing to pair it with. Like with me, I studied finance business. That's a very good pairing. If you are a computer programmer, whatever you do, if you have the language on top of that, you'll be able to get into those positions. Because that position I said, where I was the only person not from a Chinese background, that job was in the US. So it helps you to have a more stable, and then when I moved, because I had to move for some life reasons from one state to another, very quickly I landed on my feet because there just so happened to be a Chinese company who needed someone who spoke Chinese to be able to perform the core functions. If I didn't speak Chinese, I definitely would have not got that job. So it helps you with stability in your career. And then if you do have entrepreneurial interests, it's very helpful to expand your arsenal, to make you do things better over there, to directly communicate with them. So I would say Chinese is the biggest thing you can do to be able to boost your career, boost your future, and have a lot more earning potential for an entire lifetime.